You download the wallet, you KYC, send some crypto into your wallet, and then tap it and spend it just like you do your Visa MasterCard. So that was always our thesis, is like, look, utility a token all you want, right? But if I can't buy a coffee or a pair of shoes with it, it's got no utility to me, you know?
Hello, and welcome to Public Key. This is your host, Ian Andrews. Here's a question that probably crossed your mind. What good is cryptocurrency if you can't use it to grab your morning coffee or snag those Jordan sneakers you've been eyeing? Well, today's episode might just have the answer. I'm joined by Phillip. He's president of Oobit, and they've cracked the code on making crypto as easy to spend as swiping your Visa or MasterCard. Their tap and pay solution is a game changer. Imagine buying your everyday items with crypto. No seed phrases or complicated wallet setups required. Phillip's going to walk us through how they've solved the crypto-to-fiat puzzle and share their exciting plans to roll this technology across Europe and into emerging markets like South America and Africa. Plus, we'll hear about their groundbreaking partnerships with Tether and the Ton blockchain network. But before we jump into this episode, Chainalysis has just made a major announcement. Co-founder and Chief Strategy Officer Jonathan Levin has been appointed by the board of directors to the role of Chief Executive Officer. This is a bittersweet moment, as this means that Michael Groninger has stepped down from his role as CEO and his role on the board. Michael is proud of the work he's done and believes that it is an exciting time for Chainalysis, and he states, financially and strategically, the company is incredibly strong. With that, on to our episode. Today, I have an exciting conversation for you with Phillip, who's the president at Oobit. Phillip, welcome to the show.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I've just been playing around on your website before we jumped in to record, and I watched this video, kind of a demo marketing video that you have of a guy sitting in a coffee shop. He goes up to order a coffee, pops open the Oobit app, selects the crypto he wants to pay with, and does a tap to pay to buy his coffee in the random cafe. You got to tell me, how does this actually work? Like, this is the crypto dream. There's no MetaMask login. There's no seed phrase that I need to remember. It just works. How have you guys built this?
Yeah, so obviously a good tech team and some regulatory infrastructure in the back end. But, you know, in simplistic, you download the wallet, you KYC, send some crypto into your wallet, and then you tap it and spend it just like you do your Visa MasterCard. So that was always our thesis, is like, look, utility a token all you want, right? But if I can't buy a coffee or a pair of shoes with it, it's got no utility to me, you know? So Europe has been our main market for the past 3 or 4 months. We should be about 1 million users by the end of this month. And then we're launching, you know, South America and America by the end of the year, and then the rest of the world early year Q1. So yeah, we're just trying to make it simple for people to spend crypto, and we do the conversion in the back end.
Talk to me about how that actually works from a technical perspective. So you have relationships with, I guess, a credit card issuing bank. And do you have to do anything on the merchant side? Or once you're able to do the conversion from crypto to traditional payment rails, it really doesn't matter on the merchant end? You don't have to make
Yeah,
any
we're not
adjustments.
taking a huge risk. You know, you're not going to come and
Yeah.
buy a new Lamborghini with Oobit, right? We want you spending $500 type of
Yeah.
transactions, everyday transactions. So we're very limited on risk. So what we do is effectively round it up at the end of the day and then do the conversions. But obviously, if it's less than the stable coins, and we're doing instant conversions if it's something on a layer 1 or 2 or a meme. But yeah, you know, we don't really have a lot of risk because we know the crypto is in the wallet, and we just do the conversion in the back end.
Very cool. One thing I've wondered about the concept of pay with crypto is, in most of the world, when I buy something with a fiat credit card, the cost of the transaction is hidden to me as a user. I know it's usually like $2 plus 2.5% or something like that, depending on the size of the transaction. Some large merchants maybe negotiate that down a little bit, but generally it's absorbed by the merchant. Every now and then you see a sign that says, oh, if you pay with a credit card, like, I'm going to charge you an incremental fee. But generally the purchaser, it's abstracted from them. In crypto, anytime I'm making a transaction, moving assets between wallets, like any of that stuff, the gas fees get me.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about sort of gasless solutions, or where the receiver of the transaction actually funds the gas as being potentially like a future state. How do you guys tackle that?
So there are no gas fees on the transaction. All there is basically a 1% fee. So we charge 1%. So it is different in the sense of the merchant picks up the bill if you're buying, but effectively it's just an OTC transaction. If you guys, somebody's spending, they're getting charged 1%. Right now, we're actually giving Tether's our big investor partner. So Tether has a gold coin. So you're actually, if you spend, you go buy a new pair of shoes, you spend $200, you're getting 5% of that back in Tether gold tokens. Obviously, gold's having a great day as well. It's actually saving you 5%. I think it's going to be up to about 15% allegedly in the next month or so. So there'll be a combination of tokens. So whilst we're going through this big user acquisition, we want to encourage people. Also, the more transactions that go through on these chains, the better. So there's a lot of chains that want to push transactions to them, to their layers and stablecoins. So we can help with that by bringing in the masses.
It sounds like a terrific product. I'm curious, looking at your background on LinkedIn, you started out in TradFi. How did you end up in crypto? Tell us maybe your origin story here into the world of digital assets.
Yeah, I was in Jefferies and Nomura in investment banking, and sort of went to a conference in Hong Kong, saw Roger Ver, who's a friend of mine, on stage, realized there's a lot going on. This was 2017. I looked at Bitcoin. Bankers are very good at thematics, chasing the next theme. So I had a lot of friends already in it, but just saw the dominance of like Chinese people in this room and like, what the hell's going on here? So I caught that tailwind where Bitcoin went from 2 to 20,000 nicely. And then made some investments, some money. And then a couple of years ago, basically I wanted a very simplistic product I could use for spending it. And there's all these like card solutions, but they don't last very long and they don't suit all jurisdictions for KYC. So anyway, I come across a company called Oobit and met the founders, and met one of my friends was a very major shareholder and chairman. So I said, look, I'd like to invest in the company and, come on and sort of take the cap raising strategy and the business development forward. So that's how it sort of come about. And going back to what I said earlier, it's like, just make it simple. I want to be able to spend it. The best utility is buying a coffee. I saw the gap in the market and the team's amazing. So jumped on board, and it took financing. I thought it was going to take maybe 3 weeks. You all get balled up when you find the right story. But yeah, it took a lot longer. I would say it was about 9 months. Anatoly from Solana gave us our first check, actually. I saw him at Permissionless, so thank you, Anatoly. Bought him a coffee in Solana, and he was like, okay, I like that. I want to invest.
That might be the best investor pitch ever. It's like, hey, look, I could just tap to pay.
Yeah. Especially when the barista didn't know who he was. I was like, look, that's the problem. You're mainstream in there, but not out here in the real world. So then CMCC, who had rejected us, started to sharpen their pencil. So we're grateful to Charlie and Martin at CMCC, and then Paolo and Tether come in a lot larger. So we're super grateful. And Tether was always the ultimate partner, because people are spending. They want to spend Tether or USDC. They want to spend a stable coin. We accept, I think, about 10 different currencies now. We want them to be liquid, but it's always going to be stable coins. 95% of the transaction volume is in stable coins. I think the one thing that I've learned over the years is like the banking system and using credit cards in the US is amazing, and it works well in UK and Europe, but there's still, last count, 6.5 billion people outside of the US that still heavily rely on the US dollar. And so there's a lot of remote workers, there's a lot of people getting paid in crypto, there's a lot of transactions going on outside of the United States in the US dollar. And so that's where we see big gaps. Countries with inflation where their workers are earning US dollars, but their currencies are going to the wall, like Argentina, Brazil, Philippines, and those type of countries where their currencies are deflating. And they're using the US dollar as an income. So now we're just making it easy for them to spend it.
Yeah, as we're recording this, the big news this week in stablecoins, of course, is Stripe acquiring Bridge. Rumored to be a $1.1 billion acquisition, so not small money at all. I'm curious how you think about Bridge, and if you have any perspective on what you think Stripe is going to do with that acquisition.
I haven't looked at the details too much, but it's amazing to see some M&A in the space, because we haven't seen M&A in the space for years, so pre-FTX days. So obviously it's likely to change if politics, the IPO market could kick on. And so imagine they're just bolstering up their balance sheets, their businesses going into an IPO. It's the spec on Stripe. So I think it's a deal to be watched. There wasn't too many details. It finally came out that they put over $1 billion, but it's an interesting move. But the growth in stablecoins is just incredible. And I was saying earlier that I didn't really get the importance of it from the US perspective. I mean, it's amazing. You create a currency where you turn it into a digital dollar. It invests in treasuries. You get to track and trace it where you couldn't, the US dollars in cash going outside of the country. So you have very highly traceable money now, and you keep dollar dominance. I mean, for a politician, it's a dream. Like, especially with BRICS happening and threatening, and petro transactions happening in different currencies, it's like you want to keep it in US dollar. I think it's good to have it independent of a centralized bank currency. So super excited about the expansion of. I think Circle's doing a great job as well. I see Jeremy on stage a lot and love listening to him, but obviously we have a bias to Tether.
I was gonna ask or circle the next investor in Oobit, but
Might be a conflict of interest there, but like, wrong price, we're always welcome,
I'm curious because you've mentioned KYC a couple times. So obviously I'm in the US, I haven't accessed the app yet, but
Yeah.
if I'm a user in Europe, that setup process, you're actually collecting a real world identity on all your users. And you're also, I would assume, doing some amount of transaction monitoring. Is that right?
We like coming to the United States, so yeah, it's the same as any sort of exchange, some sub, sort of KYC in the background, and then we check the currency, make sure it's like not tarnished, that people are
Yeah.
spending as well. So we've got a great tech team that does all of that, very compliant.
Yeah, that's great. Had any challenges with the banking relationships? Like, it seems like this continues to be the area of most friction for crypto companies. Maybe also the most area of most opportunity is that on-ramp, off-ramp process. If you can figure that out, it gives you a lot of room to run. I'm curious your experience there.
Yeah, all this makes what we do is a complete sense. And when you ask me, how it works, it's like I'm slightly hesitant to tell you exactly because, it's like nine moving parts in the background, with one particularly hard barrier to entry. So we have a very strategic relationship in the back that allows us to off ramp the way we do. Getting listed on iOS was really painful, I've got to say. That was like,
Yeah.
you think banks are bad? That was far more harder. So, but we finally got there for Europe on the 20th of August. And then, I don't know, like the user growth is insane, to be honest. In the plans for the future as well, I didn't mention it, but basically we want to be integrated into all the wallets. So we are B2C now, but like we'd love people to off ramp in their MetaMask or their Trust or Phantom, all of these wallets. So we don't need to be the app that off ramps you. You don't have to have a separate app. We want to be B2B. Hopefully in the new year, you'll be able to just use it out of your existing wallet and spend.
That would be a huge expansion strategy for you all if you were able to plug into MetaMask or Top Wallet on Solana. That would be exciting. So
Yeah, well, the delays for iOS happened. We basically built that.
Yeah.
I think just watch the space in the next 2 months, and hopefully we can announce that early January.
fantastic. I love it when people drop news here on the podcast. This is exciting. Now, I think recently one of the co-founders at Oobit came out and said that you're also working on your own layer 2 blockchain. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's in the background.
Okay.
We're dealing with the user growth and keeping the system up. There are some plans for that, but got to be honest, between the B2C and the B2B, that's our primary focus. Just keep it simple. What does the Buffett say? Keep it simple, stupid. So
Yeah.
we help people to spend money, and that's it. So I think the layer 2, when things are pumping, we come up with a lot of ideas, but there is something in the background, but I don't think we'll see it until Q4 next year.
There's obviously an explosion of new networks right now. It seems like everybody is building their own layer 2. It feels a little bit like they're kind of chasing the success that Coinbase has had with Base, where obviously huge popularity, a ton of user activity. And every time I see a new layer 2 spring up, it's like, well, yeah, your ceiling is probably as good as Coinbase, but your floor is like zero user activity and a whole lot of effort.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's going to be more at the floor than at the ceiling in most cases.
Even like look at Sui. Sui's up like 250% and like smashing it. We were just at their opening of their Dubai office yesterday. People are smart at that team. They're ex-Apple, Facebook. I mean, like, you read the CVs, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And you're like, I should buy a few of those. I bought a few, but never enough. And you're like, why didn't I buy more? And I think Ton, we did a partnership with Ton.
Yeah.
Obviously, that has some regulatory risk, but like if you use Ton, you can't argue with 980 million users, right? And the workaround of what like iOS for the apps is incredible, right? So I think, and people are like, they're as crazy about Ton as they are about Ethereum back in the day. They want to build on it, and you've got, you try to hire a developer on Ton. It's very hard because they're entrepreneurs. They don't need it. They're getting funding. They're building casinos. They're building hamster apps or whatever they're building. There's a lot of activity there, but I think Sui's my one to watch at the moment. I'd be interested to see this new Bear chain. Is it Bear chain?
I don't even know Barachain. You threw a new one at me. But going back to Ton a little bit, I'm curious, like, what's the Oobit strategy relative to Ton? Like, how do you guys think about that? Because it is this really unique ecosystem. You've got, obviously, the Telegram app installed on a few 100 million phones globally.
980 million.
And I think
Crazy.
980. Okay, so almost a billion. So probably That makes them the third largest messaging social app on the planet, something like that. And I would say probably a high percentage of people that are already in crypto use Telegram, maybe not as their primary app, but at least one that's on their phone. And it seems like by launching the blockchain ton, it's just taken off in popularity. I feel like they have a usability advantage because everyone's already got the messaging app, and all of the crypto related activity is implemented just as a bot. Largely, like I was playing around with something the other day called Storm Trades. It's just integrated into the messaging workflow. Like it's not complex at all. It doesn't have that feel of crypto where you get that bead of sweat going down your forehead as you're every time you like fire off a transaction. Is it going to the right address or Have I just black holed some large amount of my personal net worth? So what are you guys thinking at Oobit? Like how do you work within the Telegram ecosystem?
I'd like to work harder, so that's a shout out to Ton.
There you go.
Like we did a partnership with Ton Tether, so they launched that stablecoin on Ton Tether, So we listed it, and I know they've got an amazing wallet, or quite a few amazing wallets on their system. We'd probably end up doing partnerships with them, but they have so much stuff going on at the moment. I think it's had to scale their team as well, so we're not ready for that B2B integration yet, but I think that's the way we're thinking about it. If we can cut a deal with all those wallets. Have you used the wallet?
On the Telegram? Yeah, I can't in the US. They're geo-blocking everybody in the US. So I've tried to, and actually when I was in Dubai a few months back, I was like, oh, I'm outside the US, now I can play with it. And I think once you've opened the app in the US, they set a bit on you and you're forever banned as a US person. So unfortunately, I can't access it directly.
But it is a really good experience.
Yeah.
And you got an iOS charge, 33% of all app purchases, and to Android 15%. I mean, that workaround with Ton is incredible, right? For capturing so much more cash. So, you're going to build there, right? And you've got a 980 million user base overnight. So it's incredible. As much as I think these Hamster and not all the rest of those coins, they're a bit, scammy in the sense of you get like $25 back for like spending 300 man hours on it. It's like, I've got to have something better to do with my life than that. But I didn't at the time because I thought, like every degen, I'm going to like secretly tap my way on a hamster to get 10 million bucks. But it is incredible the way they encourage you to do tasks and proof of work. It just shows you how you can blow up. You get users, you've got a business, haven't you? You can sell anything.
Let's maybe shift gears a little bit and talk about regulatory. So you mentioned you've started in Europe, have plans to expand next year into other markets like Latin America. What's that like from a regulatory standpoint? I would imagine this is one of the big challenges to opening up a new market.
Yeah, I mean, you can't spend enough on protecting yourself and your customers and doing the right thing. And sometimes it's very unclear as well. So we're very cautious. That's the reason why I'm a Brit. Actually, I'm on a test. It's a test, internal test. It's nothing to do with me if the compliance from the UK is looking. But the UK we're not licensed there yet. So it's only for Europe. You just got to tread carefully because sometimes the laws are unclear or not even built yet for something like this. So we're trying to make sure everything's, all the I's dotted and the T's are crossed. But we've got a good pathway forward now. That's the reason why we've taken a little bit longer to go out the gates, but we're going to do it the right way.
Yeah. Do regulators look at your business and sort of treat you similarly to an exchange? Because I guess you're custodying your users' assets.
It's really like which regulator, and then you can chop that 100 different ways over different countries. So I wish there was a blanket for all, but there's not. And that stops scaling. Europe's obviously easy. US is easy, but we've been debating on the US because obviously there's 40 million wallet holders there, but also a minefield of regulation. But we think we're going to have a crack at it before the year's out. So
exciting.
So we are regulated there now, but do we turn it on? I think maybe see what the 6th of November lands like and then turn it on.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are going to swing on this upcoming election. It's going to be very interesting to see. It seems like a dead heat from everything I read right now. It's sort of a toss-up.
We're all watching Polymarket, which is not necessarily the,
Well, the big story this week on Polymarket was that there's like one big whale has come in and manipulated the vote with some big bet. It's not like a broad consensus. It's somebody who's pretty deep pocketed. Did you see that story?
Yeah, I mean, something like that happening in crypto, I don't believe it. But I mean, I don't know. It does look like I follow that Nate guy. He seems to sort of be the on the money guy.
Yeah, Nate Silver, 538. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It looks like it's going in the right direction, depending on which way you think there is the right direction. For crypto, it looks like it's going in the right direction, but it'll be an amazing team, right? It's the Patriots with Brady on it, if it happens,
Well, it's certainly going to be an interesting next 2 weeks here in the U.S. I think it will swing crypto markets globally, depending on the outcome. outcome for sure. But interestingly, I would say that all of the political activity around crypto over the last 6 months seems to have moved the Democrats to being more broadly accepting of digital assets. I think they realized that in the electorate, like fairly broad pro-crypto sentiment, and that they were going to lose a lot of potential voters by taking such a strong anti-crypto stance. So obviously that hasn't swung everybody in the party, but Kamala Harris seems to have shifted away from the Biden rhetoric toward crypto, at least publicly. It feels like the entire political spectrum, whether you're right or left, is suddenly coming closer to at least neutral on crypto, which I think is great news for the industry. So it's sort of like maybe we get a win regardless of the outcome. Of which party.
I tend to agree. I think it'll be like 75-85 if Kamala wins and like 125 to the moon if, if Trump wins. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I come from a like TradFi background, and I'm like the settlement of stocks and shares seems like so silly, not being able to settle it and instantaneous. I've got 3 boys, and I explain to them they're investing now, so they want to buy some Nvidia, and they can't buy it like 24/7, and it's like I'm sorry guys. So I think the narrative, the RWA and tokenization of this stuff is going to be progressing forward regardless of the politics. I didn't personally buy into that security token 5 years ago. Now it's called RWA because it's create a new 3-letter code. It works better. But it seems to be really progressing in the right direction. I think demand drives that, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it's exciting time in crypto.
Well, tell me more about that, because I know you've been on the road recently. You were at Token 2049. You've been to a few other conferences. You mentioned Nashville earlier. Like, how would you describe what's happening in the industry broadly? Like, what are the big takeaways from some of these events?
I'm a mixed bag on the thematic of meme coins. I mean, it's been such a narrative. It doesn't stop me gambling them. Are they good? They bad? I don't know. But I mean, they brought so many new users into the market, and a lot of people would have lost their shirts. Hopefully, they bought Doge, Bonk, and Pepe, and the bigger ones, right? Shiba. But it does bring new users in, and so then they start to look around. My friends are very big holders of the AI token BitTensor. That's done extremely well as well this year. So there's all those thematics AI, but like deep in, which I don't really understand as much, but there's a lot of people deep in tokens.
This is like Render or Helium or things like that when you're talking deep in, like real world infrastructure, basically.
I like to invest in stuff that I either completely don't understand or like that I use. And so that was the reason why Oobit made a lot of sense. I don't know how many users you've got like 5,000 friends using this like $10 billion project. I'm not too sure about deep in, but the growth of stablecoins, and then that translates back into real world assets. Like, so if you're tokenizing T-bills or corporate debt, otherwise it was the debt instruments were like for investment banks work there, like to rip out a lot of fees, and then they sold them onto private banks, and then who ripped out more fees, and they were a product for like exclusively rich people. But now if you want to own a T-bill, you can buy it on chain. There's a wrapper for everything now, or will be in the next 2 years, and that growth of stablecoins needs a home as well for income as well. Just go back to the stablecoin, no names. I think we're going to see exponential. I think it won't be too far off when we hit $1 trillion market cap on stablecoins, and then that will translate as in putting it back into government corporate bonds, as to increase the tokenization in that. Makes complete sense. I'm really excited about the RWA more than anything. My friend owns some Regis in Aspen. A shout out to Stefan Debates, and he tokenized that back in 2017, and it was like basically a single asset REIT, and he went to hell and back to tokenize it, and it all makes sense. Own shares in a beautiful, fantastic Aspen hotel, paying nice yield with growth on the real estate, but it made no sense. People were like, I want a coin that can go 25,000x. What is this?
He's blazing a trail though, right? That's 2017. So like, that's early days.
I think it's $2 million on legal fees to get it, to list it or whatever, right? It was a pain, but he set precedent. So for the rest of people out there to do something.
Yeah, took the pain for everybody else. This has been a fantastic conversation. To wrap up, I'm curious what you're excited about. You've mentioned a bit of the roadmap coming for Oobit, but like looking forward, what should all our listeners be paying attention to?
I mean, I'm really excited to get into other countries. Like I want to hit South America and Asia really hard. We would love to see people spending there, Turkey as well. And then ultimately we want to be B2B. So we'd love people to be just spending. They might remember the name Oobit, the off-ramp with it. What my friend Ivan at MoonPay is to on-ramp, we want to be to off-ramp. So we'd like that to be a household name for, we just spend it on Oobit.
How can people follow along the journey? What's the best way to...
Twitter at Oobit. spending with us will be very rewardable for everybody. There'll be a lot of reward programs out there, so I think people should spend with us.
Fantastic. I look forward to the launch here in the US in the near future. And thanks so much for the time today, Phillip.
Thanks, Ian.
Hey there. Thanks for listening to another episode. If you enjoyed what you heard today, do me a favor. Open up your podcast app, rate the show, give us a review, tell us what you liked. Even better, you can share the podcast with your friends. And of course, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. The crypto compliance world just scored a massive victory. Last week, on December 4th, 2024, the UK's National Crime Agency pulled off something incredible. They took down a multi-billion-dollar money laundering operation that had been servicing everyone from Russian elites to cyber criminals and drug gangs. This takedown, dubbed Operation Destabilize, reads like a thriller. They uncovered 2 Russian-speaking networks, Smart and TGR, and the numbers are staggering. There were 84 arrests and over 20 million euros seized in cash and crypto. But here's what makes this really special. It was a true international effort. We're talking UK and French police working alongside the FBI, DEA, and the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Asset Control, who topped it off by sanctioning key players and their crypto addresses. Want to see the full story with some mind-blowing visuals and data? We've got a detailed breakdown on our blog. Just check the link in the show notes.